Welcome back to Trending Update USA. This is your anchor Stefan, and you're watching the fastest rising news channel in America. If it's trending, shocking, touching, or game-changing, you hear it here first. And yes, before we go any further, this is Stefan, and I am live, locked in, and ready to break down one of the most painful updates we've ever covered on this channel. Today's story is about a moment the tennis world feared but prayed would never come. The update that dropped like a thunderbolt through stadiums, feeds, locker rooms, and fan hearts worldwide. The question everyone is asking right now: is this truly the worst news of her entire career? When you talk about modern tennis power, elite mentality, fierce dominance, and a woman built like a championship fortress, one name stands tall. She has bulldozed her way into finals, served at speeds that rattle slow-motion cameras, crushed forehands like thunder, and stared down pressure like it bows to her. This isn't just a player, this is a force, a presence, a hurricane in a pink Nike dress. But hurricanes are natural, flesh and bone isn't. And what happened recently reminded the entire world that even legends, monsters, and queens bleed like mortals. Weeks leading into this season, fans started noticing tiny clues. The footsteps looked slightly hesitant in extended rallies. The recovery on far corner sprints wasn't laser-sharp like before. The celebrations, still triumphant, sometimes came paired with a quiet wince, the kind the cameras tried not to capture but the fans always detect. Tennis fans are the most forensic fans in sports. They'll detect a shoulder strain in a handshake and a hamstring issue in a sideline camera angle. And suspicions turned into dread when official medical timeouts became more frequent than usual. Then, everything peaked in a match that still echoes in stadium memory. After an aggressive wide serve that fans described as one of the cleanest aces of the tournament, she landed awkwardly while repositioning. At first, it looked like a normal slide. Tennis movement is poetry in motion mixed with controlled chaos. But this was different. The right leg failed to stabilize as expected. Her racket hand instantly dropped from attack mode to instinctive survival mode. And the pain showed before the commentators could even articulate a sentence. She tried to shake it off with the walk it off mentality. That created her legend. But this wasn't a walk-off injury. This was a stop-the-world injury. The stadium fell into a hush deeper than silence. Not the polite tennis crowd silence. The worried human silence. The kind where rivalry disappears, scoreboards become irrelevant, and all that matters is health, injury severity, and whether someone today has permanently lost a piece of themselves. Players across the net looked frozen. Officials rushed in, physiotherapists sprinting like it was a championship 100-meter dash. The crowd didn't boo, didn't cheer, didn't even whisper. You could hear ball kids breathing. That's how serious the moment felt. She whispered something later revealed to her team, but unofficially, lip readers on social media claimed she said, "Not now, please. Not here." We don't know if those words are true. But we do know one thing is absolutely real. The injury was real, the pain was real, and the consequences were terrifying. Medical evaluation later confirmed what fans had feared. A serious lower extremity injury involving knee ligament impact alongside muscular trauma. The exact diagnosis was guarded at first, fueling the internet panic machine. Protected information means fans invent their own diagnoses faster than MRI reports can process. Some said career-ending, some said months out, some said she'd never move the same again, some said mental scars might last longer than physical recovery. But the worst part? Everyone agreed this was the darkest update of her tennis lifespan. She was assisted off the court, not walking, not limping, not faking strength, not mass holding, but fully supported by medical arms. The champion wasn't carried by glory that day. She was carried by concern. And as fans saw the conference clip afterwards, sleeve rolled, face red with emotion, voice still warrior strong but trembling at the edges, the tennis community collectively cracked open. But let's pull back and analyze what makes this update possibly the worst of her career, not just medically but historically, emotionally, financially, competitively, and mentally. Because careers don't just end in operation rooms. They fracture quietly in moments where confidence meets vulnerability head-on. First, timing is everything in elite sports. This wasn't an off-season practice injury where recovery happens privately in gyms, yachts, or Instagram stories. This happened while she was deep in championship rhythm, rankings pressure, slam expectations, endorsement campaigns, and peak performance visibility. A disruption here doesn't just stop a match, it rewinds the season narrative. Second, dominance creates expectation, and expectation creates psychological fragility when interrupted. It's one thing to get injured as a rising talent still crafting identity. It's a completely different catastrophe to get injured when you're already carrying the weight of being the woman to beat. When top defenses fall, the world notices difference instantly. Third, tennis movements are repetitive micro-stress signals accumulating silently. Unlike contact sports like football or rugby where injuries often come from collision, tennis injuries are more betrayal than battle. It's your own motion turning against you. There is no villain to blame. There is only your own body saying, "I can't pay the bill today." Fourth, rehabilitation in tennis is brutal, lonely, and psychological. Courts shrink when you're injured. The ball moves faster than you remembered. Lateral steps feel foreign. And the mind starts questioning mechanics it once controlled without thinking. Muscle memory must be retrained like a language you once spoke fluently but suddenly forgot under stress. Fifth, ranking implications are merciless. The world rankings system rewards consistency and attendance. An injury layoff creates point decay like sand slipping through fists. The competitors you once dominated get chances to sprint ahead while you rehab in isolation. And sixth, imagery matters. Champions build their legend not just in wins but in visual identity. The roar after a winning forehand, the fist pump that shakes stadium boards, the glare before a return, the walk into finals with fire aura. These are signature stamps fans recall before stats. Seeing that aura interrupted in pain creates a deeper perception of fragility, even if recovery is fully possible. Now, let's talk about reaction waves. Fans from Belarus to Bangladesh, New York to Riyadh, Tokyo to Toronto, and Melbourne to Madrid unleashed emotional digital storms. Hashtags trended for 72+ hours across platforms without pause. Viral clips crossed 50 million+ views, including reaction stitches from tennis creators, sports doctors, fitness analysts, former players, and superstar rivals expressing concern instead of competition. Even her biggest competitors paused their season narrative to show emotional solidarity. Tennis turned from war to community instantly. The sport doesn't do that unless someone truly matters. The injury update also triggered sponsor concern, media narrative pivots, and tournament director statements wishing recovery, but privately scrambling for drawcard adjustments. Because love aside, tennis economics depends on stars who sell tickets and headlines. And right now, one of the brightest billboards went temporarily dark. But dark isn't dead. Let's analyze recovery probability. Medical professionals specializing in ligament trauma estimate that modern surgical advancements paired with physical therapy can restore 85 to 95% of competitive mobility when rehab discipline is exceptional. And if discipline was a tennis player, it might wear her shoes. Recovery for athletes of her muscular build, power training history, and off-court fitness standards statistically shows stronger comeback probability than technically fragile player profiles. Strength supports recovery too. Former champions who suffered similar injuries, like Maria Sharapova's 2008 shoulder surgery aftermath, Victoria Azarenka's 2014 foot and knee struggles, Juan Martín del Potro's 2018 knee fractures, and Serena Williams' 2021 hamstring tear during Wimbledon, all returned to elite competition, proving injuries don't always close the career book. Sometimes they add a redemption chapter. And redemption sells more than dominance. Now here's the emotional factor. In her first press statement after evaluation, she said she was heartbroken but hopeful, and added, "Tennis has given me everything. I owe it a comeback, and I owe myself another fight." That line alone reignited fan hearts like CPR paddles on fading ambition. Tennis fans don't just cheer wins, they worship comebacks. Her team later revealed rehab has already begun. Not delayed, not paused, not scheduled for later, already begun. That matters because injury despair lives in the waiting period. Hope lives in the first therapy session. But here's what fans don't realize: rehab isn't just medical. It's identity reconstruction. She now has to build a version painful enough to inspire but strong enough not to lose self-belief. She can't just return. She has to return mythic. Because when the world labels something the worst news of a career, the only acceptable answer is a comeback bigger than the injury story itself. So now we arrive at the final verdict. Was this the worst news? Medically, yes, one of the most serious injuries of her professional timeline. Competitively, yes, catastrophic timing and disruption. Emotionally, yes, stadium heartbreak moment. Narratively, yes, darkest headline she's ever carried. But historically? Not necessarily. History hasn't been written yet. Because history isn't based on the injury chapter. History is based on what she does after the injury chapter. And if you asked me, this might not be the end. This might be the origin of her greatest comeback era ever. This is Stefan, signing off on this part of the update, but the story is far from over. The Queen has fallen temporarily, but the crown hasn't left her head. Stay locked to Trending Update USA, because we will be covering every step of her recovery, return, redemption, and ranking rebuild. If you love tennis, if you love champions, if you love comebacks, and if you love one of the strongest mentalities in sports, this is the story you follow, not the story you fear. Because a champion getting injured is painful. A champion returning from injury is eternal.